Lesson 47 is about measurements, and part 2 is about conversions. Go ahead and get your notes ready and push play when you're ready to begin. To convert measurements, if you know how to use proportional relationships, then this is a very easy transition. And we've been working with proportional relationships, so this should be a pretty easy lesson for you. So you use your proportional relationships, the handlebars, and you take the known information that you know about the comparison of measurements and you put it here. Your needed information goes here. And just like before, whatever label is here on the top floor stays on the top floor, and whatever label is on the bottom floor stays on the bottom floor. And as long as you keep your labels correct, then you will find the answer you're missing. So let me show you how it works. All right, go ahead and copy this down. This also should all be copied down for your notes. And then copy this down. Push play when you've got it. There are 12 inches in a foot. How many inches are in 8 feet? Well, here's our known information. They just told us there are 12 inches in a foot. And you probably already knew that already, but they told us anyway. So this is our known information. This is what we would put here. So it would look like proportional relationship, and we would say 12 inches in a foot is singular, right? They're talking about 1 foot, so it's 1 foot. Language arts skills and knowing your singular and plural is important here. Carry your labels across. What other information did they give us? How many inches are in 8 feet? Well, feet I know, so I go ahead and put it there, 8 feet, and I want to know how many inches there are. From there, all I have to do is do the math that you have already learned how to do. Multiply your crosses, because we know that in a proportional relationship, this multiplied by this is going to have to equal this multiplied by this if we're saying they are in fact equal, because they are in proportion. So we multiply 1 times x, which is x, and 12 times 8, well, I'm going to put 12 times 8 here first for your notes so that you know what happened. And then 8 times 2 is 16, 8 times 1 is 8 plus 1 is 9, so x equals 96. And again, x was looking for inches, so it is 96 inches. So that's pretty easy, isn't it? It's what you've been working on, and so it's nothing really new, just a new way of using it. Let me show you something else with this. Okay, here's another example. You might get a question that says, convert 12 feet to yards. We're going to handle this the same way. There's just one little problem that's going to arise, but let's go ahead and start it off the same way. We're going to use proportional relationships, the handlebars, to help us solve this. And again, we put the known information here. Known information being, I've got feet, I've got yards. How many feet are in a yard? There's our problem. Some of you know how many feet are in a yard. Your brain just said, oh, there's blah, blah feet in a yard. And some of you might not have that memorized yet. So if you don't have that memorized, in our world, that's okay. You can Google that. You can just say how many feet are in a yard, or how many feet to yards, and you'll get the answer. So you can Google it. In the end of these notes, though, I'm going to give some real common ones that you'll copy into your notes that you can use for your homework at home. So you'll be copying some stuff down after this example. And some of that information will be in there. And you can use that on your test, of course, so definitely make sure it's nice and neat. So I'm going to tell you, let's say you Googled it or you looked at your notes, that there are 3 feet in a yard, if you did not know that already. So we're going to go ahead and put known information, whether it was Googled or it was already in our brain, that there is 3 feet in 1 yard. Carry your labels across. Now put in the information we're trying to find out. We're looking for 12 feet. We don't know how many yards that is, so we're going to put 12 on the feet row. And yards is what we're wondering about. Now, because it says it's equal, we're going to go ahead and multiply our crosses. 3x equals 12 times 1, which is 12. This is an equation. That's the equal sign. We've been calling it the ocean. Here's my variable, and I'm always trying to get the variable alone so I can find out what it is. It's being multiplied here, so I will undo the multiplication with the 3 by doing its inverse, which is division. The opposite, which is division. Divide 3 away. Whatever you do to one side of the equation, you must do to the other. And I get x equals 12 divided by 3, right, bottom into top, and that is going to equal to 4. This x was here. That's how I know what label goes with it. So 12 feet is 4 yards. And that is the answer. So pretty easy since you know your proportional relationships. The only twist to this was that you either had to look this piece of known information up or you had to already know it in your head. And so all you're dealing with today on conversions is either information you already have in your brain or in your notes or looking it up. All right, so let's look at some common measurements that you should start being able to figure out in your head, that you should get stuck into your head as well as you can. And it'll take time, but some of them you may already know. And we're going to start with the metric system. Remember, in the last lesson, we talked about the metric system, which is used in most parts of the world, and the customary system, which we use here in the U.S. with feet, inches, yards, those sorts of things. And I decided that I would start you off with the metric system on this because it's the easier one. So let's start with that. And the other one will be easy-ish for you because the customary system will be easy-ish for you just because some of it you already have memorized. But let's start with metric system. We have the base units of the meter, which measures length, the gram, which is a measurement for mass or weight. So if you got on a scale, it would tell you how much you weighed in grams. And the liter, which measures capacity, and I drew a cup of water here. That's supposed to be a cup of water. And because capacity is how much something holds. So it depends on what we're measuring as to what base unit we're going to use. And the thing with metric system is with all of them, it's actually kept pretty easy because they have a prefix that goes in front of each of these base units that tells you exactly how much they're split into. So they almost tell you the information you need. So the biggest prefix that we'd look at that makes them bigger is kilo. So if you put kilo in front of meter, meaning 1 meter, that means 1,000, I'll put it in a different color, 1,000 meters, because kilo means 1,000. If you put the word kilo, or the prefix kilo, in front of gram, and you put kilogram, 1 gram is the base unit, then it means 1,000 grams. And then if you put kilo in front of liter, you guessed it, it means 1,000 liters. So it's a lot more than the base unit. It's more. I better put that in the same color we had before. And so it's common for most adults to recognize that kilo means 1,000 of the base unit. So, I would hope that you would work on kind of getting that stuck into your brain, because most adults do know that a kilometer is 1,000 meters, or a kilogram is 1,000 grams. Some other common ones, there's 2 other common ones in the metric system that you should know and should be familiar with as an adult. They're smaller units. They are cut up or fractional units of the base unit. And the first one is the prefix centi, which means 100th. We'll put it in decimal form, 100th.01. That means that the meter is chopped up into 100 pieces. So a centimeter is 100 small pieces of the chopped up meter. So chopped let me put meter chopped into 100 small pieces. So a centimeter is a fractional unit of the meter. It's the meter all chopped up into 100. It's the same with a centigram. That is a gram chopped up into 100 small pieces, which would be tiny. Remember we talked about the gram was like the amount of a paperclip, the weight of a paperclip or something. So centigram is that chopped into 100 small pieces. It's ridiculously light. And a centiliter would be a liter chopped up into 100 small equal pieces. And if that didn't seem small enough, let's take it just one more smaller, the milli prefix. I'll put 0.001 because it is the base unit chopped up into 1,000 pieces. So it would be a millimeter. Okay, so if I have the millimeter, that means that the meter over here is chopped into 1,000 tiny pieces. So a millimeter is extremely tiny. It's taking that 1 meter and chopping it into 1,000 small pieces, and a millimeter is just one of those tiny pieces, just one of them. Same for a milligram. Oops, I need the pencil. Milligram. If I take the gram and I chop it into 1,000 tiny pieces, one of those pieces would be called the milligram. And finally, same with the milliliter. Hardly anything. So that's the metric system. So for the known information on our proportional relationships, if it says convert a meter to a kilometer, then you would know that a meter, 1 meter is, or 1 kilometer is 1,000 meters. So you could know that information. So use this chart if you come across any meter information to help you figure out what one of item relates to another. And it's all in base 10 sort of things. 1,000, 100, base, 1, and 1,000 again. So thousandth is a hundredth is a 1, and thousands. So metric system pretty easy that way, and the math involved in it is very easy because you're dealing with that base 10. You can just move decimals around, super easy. All right, in the customary measurement system, again, this is more familiar to you, but you may not have a lot of these things memorized, and I'm not going to throw a lot of these at you, just some key ones that I think are helpful to know as an adult. So there's measurements in the customary measurement system for length, and I did the picture of the measurement line. So length, how far or tall or wide something is. Weight, this picture, in case you're wondering, is a scale, like one that you stand on when you want to weigh yourself, and then it tells you how much you weigh. That's what that's supposed to be. This is the little part that tells you how much you weigh, and this is where your feet go. That's for your feet. And then capacity, which is how much something can hold. So I drew the cup of water so that you know the different measurements that we're looking at. All right, and so for length, some important pieces to know, some important relationships to know is one that you probably already know, and that is that 12 inches is equal to 1 foot. And you probably already knew that. And most of you probably already know that 3 feet equals 1 yard. And another one I'll give you, but it's not really one that you need to be carrying around in your head all the time, but some people like to know because they like to sound like they know what they're talking about, especially runners. Like runners like to know this. So there are 5,280 feet in 1 mile. Not one you need to memorize so much, but cool to know. So these you should know, and if you don't yet know, you want to get that kind of stuck in your head. This too. This one you don't need to so much, but it's good to have on the notes. You never know. All right, so let's look at some relationships in weight. 16 ounces, this is one that I've found that I've needed to know every now and then, equals 1 pound. So in weight, 16 ounces is equal to 1 pound. Remember, that is abbreviated LB. And then another one for weight is that 2,000 pounds is equal to 1 ton. That's a lot, that's heavy. And that's all really you should have memorized for weight. Capacity, we have all kinds of measurements, but some of them will make perfect sense. And some of these you probably don't have stuck in your head at all. Well, and probably these you didn't, but are good to know. The next one, capacity, I learned a lot of these just working in a restaurant because people would order things by the cup or by the pint or by the quart or by the, well, usually not by the gallon because that was a lot. I worked in a Mexican restaurant. People would order salsa that they wanted to take home with them. So they would order it by the cup or by the pint or by the quart. So you will kind of want to learn some of these as well. This one I have stuck in my head, so you'll probably want to try and get this one stuck in your head. 8 fluid ounces is equal to 1 cup. So if you need to do 1 cup of water, but you only have ounces marked on the measuring thing, then you look for 8 ounces. 8 ounces is 1 cup. 1 pint, we use the word pint for capacity, like if you want to buy a pint of salsa or something. It's the same as 2 cups, which logically then you can say, oh, well, how many ounces is that? Well, if 1 cup is 8 ounces, then 2 cups is 16 ounces, so 1 pint is 16 ounces. So you can kind of do quick math in your head to make these connections here. Then for a quart, if you really like salsa, that is 2 pints. And again, you could do the quick math here if we already figured out that 1 pint was 16 ounces, so 2 pints must be 32 ounces, so a quart is 32 ounces. So you can intertwine this knowledge through logically. And then finally, 1 gallon, this is one that you're very familiar with because you buy a gallon of milk at the store, is equal to 4 quarts. Think of those like dollars. Like, well, gallon is $1, right? And it takes 4 quarters to make $1, so 4 quarts makes a gallon. So that's, and then what did we say this was? 32 ounces, so 32 times 4 would be how many ounces a gallon is. So these are some common measurements. This one, I would say definitely you want to try and get stuck in your head. These are handy to know. Maybe this one's kind of a real handy one to know. I would say this one and this one get stuck in there. These are nice to know, but if you can't remember them, you can always Google it, how many pints to cups or whatever. So, but for now, go ahead and get this all copied into your notes, and it will help you with your closure activity and your challenge task today, and it also will help you with your homework. So you're going to be facing some conversions that you'll be able to work with people on. In fact, again, on this lesson, I'm going to allow you to do the closure with another person if you wish. So work on those closures together. Use those proportional relationships and use what you have in your notes about the measurements, comparisons to each other, and see if you can come up with the answers. Great, okay. Let me know if you need any assistance.